The door to the cellar swung shut. You had fallen to the floor at some point, unable to bear the stench of blood. The maid stood behind you, her arms wrapped around your shoulders. The maid's voice was chillingly gentle.
That was quite horrific, wasn't it? Are you feeling unwell, Master? Oh my, you're shaking, Master. Fear not, I assure you the beast will not come through that door. I am here for you, and I will continue to hold you for as long as you need to settle your nerves. Oh dear, you feel like you might freeze in my arms. Am I really that cold? I cannot tell my own temperature. You wish to know what happened to Bestia after that? I could open the door once more and show you. But I have no intention of knowingly tossing you back into that den of horrors. He lost the rest of his humanity, becoming wholly beast. But, to tell just a little more of the tale, it is my understanding that an entire village was ravaged shortly thereafter. He was a bewitchingly talented swordsman. Not a single person living in that village could stand up to him. In the woman's memories you saw he was a gentle man, yes? But even the mildest of men can change. Though personally, I believe that without an element of monstrousness buried somewhere within, a man cannot become a beast, regardless of what may push him in that direction. Do you follow? Now tell me, Master, have you remembered anything? Oh dear, I was afraid of that. I am a remarkably patient maid. I shall accompany you for as long as you require. So do please find your memories. Now, let us head to the next door. The mansion is quite large, so hold on to my hand. We would not want to get separated.
Whew. I was stifling a sneeze that whole time. That was the worst. Now it's gone, I think. You and the maid traveled down the dimly lit hall, passing by the mirror once again. The light from the candle in the maid's hand was the only thing that reflected in it. The maid herself did not appear. However, just as you were about to avert your eyes, you thought you caught a glimpse of white hair. You heard a voice echo in the darkness. And when you turned to face the mirror again, the glass was the color of obsidian, as if it had been painted over. The voice seemed to be coming from beyond the mirror. The maid did not turn back, evidently having not heard anything. You extended your hand toward the darkness overrunning the mirror. The second your hand brushed against the surface, the tips of your fingers sunk into it, and the next thing you realized, your whole world was sinking into darkness. You could hear a voice. Now, I think I need to see one more text box before I can read that. I don't know still. I am the witch. I forget.
It's getting foggy. Looks like it might rain. Maybe we should take a little break. You want to keep going? Oh, all right then. This deep in the forest? Thank you very much. You must be tired after such a long journey. This is the mansion I am looking for, yes? He could have said something. Oh well. I should get going, I guess. Does no one live here? But if that's the case, then why was I... Such a big door. Oh, please open. It's not locked, I guess. I wonder if the window's open. Darn, not a hint of light. Hello? Is anyone there? Please don't tell me it's actually abandoned.
Maybe a bit less high in pitch for the raised voice.
I suppose I can't know without looking around a bit more. What do we have here? Drapes? I see a little light beyond. It's so pretty. It looks like an angel. Why would someone cover this up? It's beautiful. With a little more light, it'd be...
This is like a top 5 song in the game for me, and I just got full body chills. Please do not touch the drapes or the windows.
I'm sorry for coming in uninvited, but, I did announce myself. Is this, your mansion?
It is.
Thank goodness, I was afraid it was deserted.
I suspect you would have preferred it if the house were abandoned.
Oh, not at all. I would be scared to death staying in this dark mansion all by myself. I'm sorry. No ill will intended. But I do think it could do with some light. That way you could see where you were walking. And I'm sure this room would look splendid illuminated.
Not necessary. I make do perfectly well as things are.
How can you see when it's so dark?
I have an abundance of candles and oil for lamps. I am not in want of means of creating light. It is not your place to criticize my lifestyle. If you need light, you are free to leave. If you are in need of money, help yourself to some of the furniture. There's a village not far from here. Trade it for food, then make your way to a larger town.
I am no longer able to freely return to the city. I cannot go back there. Please, don't chase me out.
I see. And do you ask this of me aware of how people refer to this mansion?
They say that a witch lives here.
Not merely a witch.
A cursed witch.
If you remain here, you too shall likely suffer your own destruction.
You're worried for my well-being. Witch or not, my mind is made up.
Which will strike you first, I wonder? Regret or the curse?
You seem to be doing just fine. It's only a tale.
The witch is real. Very much so. It is not a legend, nor a fairy tale. The witch... Huh.
The witch's name was Morgana.
is me. Wonder what that was all about. Oh, what was that? Giselle.
Oh my, what is the matter, Master? Why are you just standing in place? There is nothing there.
The maid did not seem to have seen anything. You made to ask her about the scene you had just witnessed.
That's chill. Master, you look like you've just seen a ghost. What is the matter? How about a little rest before we move on? You do not wish to remain here? Still not fond of mirrors? Yes, yes. Now let us be off. I too dearly wish for you to return to your old self as soon as possible, Master. If your desire is to push onward, then I could hardly be happier. Now, follow me.
Ooh. You followed the maid's lead, returning to the living room. From there, you climbed a set of stairs, your hands sliding through the dust that had settled on the ebony railing. When you stepped out of sight of the mirror, the maid returned to normal. You had been on the verge of remembering something, but you were no longer in a position to be concerned about such things, for the chill in the air within the mansion seemed to have intensified. Standing at one end of a long corridor, you asked the maid,
When was the mansion built? I would imagine you know more about that than me, Master. Yes, I know. You have not yet regained your memories. I was simply teasing you. I have been a servant of this house for many, many years, but the truth is, I do not know everything about it. All I know is that the mansion is cursed, and that it has brought misfortune upon its residents since times of old. I can make a conjecture as to when it began, but I believe you should figure it out for yourself, Master. There is no guarantee my perspective is the correct one. Now, let us proceed.
You and the maid traveled down the dimly lit corridor. While the layout of the house was the same as in the eras of the flaxen-haired boy and the beast, the bleak, colorless gloom felt incredibly dreary.
Sorry, my mouth is just really dry today.
On the wall partway down the hall hung a painting. The painting, which depicted a beautiful landscape, was oddly entrancing, but you did not have time to appreciate the artwork. Your hand in the maid's, you passed by the painting. Before long, a door came into sight at the end of the hall.
This door is what I would like to show you next, Master. Listen closely. Do you hear the voices? Lively but rough, energetic but coarse. What lies beyond this door is neither a period of elegance and abundance like the first, nor one of ruin and savagery like the second. Technology and culture had become quite developed. Cameras and photography had been invented. It was a time of great progress and many breakthroughs, and for that reason, those who lived in it were constantly seeking to try new things. The tale I'm about to tell you is one of a man who wagered everything on his ambitions. I hope that what you see, Master, will stir something in your heart. Now, through the door we go. Please do not let go of my hand.
The maid pushed open the door, Colorful balls bounced around atop a long, dark green table. One man, dressed in black and standing by the billiards table, turned toward the door. The room was inundated with eye-watering cigar smoke, causing you to squeeze your eyes shut. Whew, this door definitely stirred something in my heart, as I once performed a monologue from it. The third door in 1869.
That era was a rat race of innovation and development.
You're sucking on a motherfucking penis head.
The smoke was so thick you could hardly see more than a few feet ahead of you. I could compare it to a dense morning fog, but that might give the impression of beauty, and of that, there was little to be found in this haze. Do you see the silhouettes of several men in the smoky room? The one in the middle, the one looking in your direction, master, was the present master of the house.
Pleasant guy.
His name was Jacopo, and though he dressed in such fine attire, I sincerely doubt he understood how splendid the furnishings left in the mansion truly were. I am a faithful servant of this house, and I would not for the life of me dare speak ill of my master. However, this is a time long past. I imagine God would be so kind as to turn a blind eye to a little bit of honesty. I was not terribly fond of my master back then. He had wavy hair the color of over-dried tea leaves, a piercing gaze, an arrogant smile, and he wore a hat that made him look rather haughty. He put his trust only in money, renown, and rank. He loved only the iron and steel that had revolutionized so many industries. He had not the slightest bit of love or care for other people. At the very least, that is what I believed at the time. Take a look around the room, master. Jacopo had remodeled it into a recreational area. A billiards table sat in the center of the room, and the downward-facing lights hanging from the ceiling were special made. The lights shone upon the dark green stand like a stage. Cigars and bourbon-lined glass cases installed in place of bookshelves. The cases were always fully stocked, their contents available to partake of readily. At that particular moment, as he had so many times before, Jacopo had invited several friends and acquaintances, and they were entertaining themselves. His wealthy, high-ranking acquaintances had a variety of hair colors, from polished brass to the brown of a baby robin to the color of sunburnt wheat. There was also a much greater variation in skin tone compared to the visitors and residents of previous eras. But that was hardly any surprise, for the mansion sat upon land inhabited largely by immigrants, the New World.
What's the matter? What are you looking at?
Nothing. I just thought I heard someone say my name.
Ain't no one there, unless you're seeing the ghost.
I don't believe in such nonsense.
It's an old house with a long history. Wouldn't be surprised if it had a ghost or two. But if the place is
gonna be haunted, I'd take a princess over a bloody broad any day.
A princess, huh? And when she showed up, you'd have your way with this ghost lady, am I right? Color me impressed, son. You jump her bones, and she don't even got any to jump.
He's calling him son, so that implies an older voice, but it's funny to just go with that. Come on now, that's hardly fair. Not much you can even do with a ghost.
My God, are you men or children? This is my house, and I would rather you didn't talk about it like that.
Just the blatherings of a couple of drunks. Pretend you didn't hear nothing.
For the love of God.
Sorry.
In any event, whatever happened to that printer you invested in? I haven't heard their name come up in some time.
Ugh, can we please avoid that topic? It's been quite the headache for me. I thought I'd pay it off, but
It always sounded sketchy to me. I'd recommend you pull out unless you want to find yourself with nothing left but a nice fat pile of debt.
you could have mentioned that beforehand. This is killing me.
The men's deep voices resounded in the cloudy room. As they imbibed alcohol and puffed on their cigars, they conversed mostly about business and money. Jacopo and the rest of the men were a breed known as tech bros. You might also call them pieces of shit. They survived on information attained before anyone else by making swift decisions and having foresight. Though instead of flesh and bone, their soldiers were made of ink and paper. To an outsider, this meeting might appear to be a congregation of friends, but in reality, they were observing one another, gathering information and anything else they could. Gathering information and anything else they could use to get ahead. At times, money and information were exchanged directly, and when they were no longer of financial value to one another, their relationship would pop like a bubble and dissipate into nothing.
But you know, Jacopo, you can't be sure this railroad you're so passionate about is gonna bear fruit neither. You don't even know if it'll get finished.
And even if they do connect the tracks, will it really be in any shape for people to ride? It's a pipe dream, this transcontinental railroad of yours.
Jacopo went silent, but I am certain this was what was going through his head.
You're a bunch of damned imbeciles if you can't see that the entire country's put their weight behind this endeavor. This is why you have so much trouble making even a few thousand.
At the time, a great railway was being built across the breadth of the continent. Construction was spearheaded by two large rail companies in competition for both prestige and a bigger share of this massive national enterprise. The Union Pacific Railroad Company started building from the east, and the Central Pacific Railroad Company from the west. But government bonds alone were not enough to finance the massive undertaking.
By the way, there have been some less than pleasant reports about workers dying on the job for the company you chose, Central Pacific.
You mean how they're using explosive to blast through the mountains? Making quite a bang they are.
But if this gets to be much bigger of a fix, they're not going to be able to continue the construction. You should at least put your money in the more sure bet of the two, the Union Pacific.
It'll cost you to hire replacement workers, but if they keep kicking the bucket, you're gonna have trouble finding more.
My goodness. And here I thought you all had spines. You think we're gonna run out of workers just because a few ate it? There's so many we don't even know what to do with all of them. There's not a chance that well will dry up. And if by some chance it does, all we have to do is buy up a ship full of blacks or yellows. You won't get anywhere if you spend your time worrying about a few measly laborers. This is an endeavor backed by the entire nation. Their deaths are honorable, in service of their country. The biggest loss is not of people's lives, but of time. The longer a project takes, the more money it costs and the less profit we make. What we seek is rapid progress, even if the methods to obtain it are messy or deadly.
The other men in the room chuckled uncomfortably at Jacopo's distasteful choice of words. Do you agree with his way of thinking, Master? Perhaps he does have a point in that great sacrifice is necessary to accomplish great things. And it is true that tragedy often lies in the shadows of the splendor of times long past. Furthermore, the way people see the world changes with the times, so I hesitate to criticize him too severely. Now, as I'm sure you have already picked up on, he was an investor who had put money into a railroad company. He also possessed several crude oil refineries, riding on the world's second wave of industrial development. The mansion, too, bustled with life in a way it never had before. dozens of maids, including me, gardeners, chefs, sculptors, artists. At times we even had writers coming in and out of the house. There was rarely a moment of silence. However, I was not terribly fond of the hustle and bustle personally. But please do not get me wrong, I am hardly opposed to the mansion being cheerful. It was just, how should I put it? The splendor of the time seemed superficial, heartless. It was as though everyone was being rushed along by some unknown, invisible force. Part of it was, I expect, caused by the growing divide between those standing at the top and sitting at the bottom. Or perhaps the mansion was simply taking after its master.
There's no time to waste. Everything is resting upon the success of this project. Whatever it takes, I will ensure it happens. I need more money and more power.
Suddenly, a restrained knock on the door stopped his train of thought. From beyond the door came a woman's voice, gentle as a soft spring breeze. "Pardon me, I have made some tea. May I offer anyone a cup?" When the door opened, in it stood a beautiful woman with pure white hair. It was indeed her. Are you surprised? Or did you anticipate her appearance? Though she was not the same age and dressed differently, the white-haired girl, whom you saw fall into the hands of misfortune in the era of roses and the era of the beast, was also present in this era of innovation. Furthermore, she was Jacopo's wife.
Tea? I don't recall asking for that. When were you asked to make it?
I wasn't, but I had these leaves with the most wonderful aroma and thought you might enjoy.
Her smile here, man. Oh. It's painful.
Shut your trap and know your place. What do you think we have all these maids for?
Hey now. No need to treat your lady like that. She was just trying to be courteous.
These are my personal affairs. Please keep your comments to yourself.
His friends were unsure how to react, but ultimately nobody stepped up to stop Jacopo. They merely shrugged, tossing glances at one another. Jacopo stomped over to the white-haired girl. He then grabbed her by the arm and dragged her from the den.
Oh, man.
What the hell do you think you're doing? I've told you time and again to stay away from that room unless absolutely necessary.
I'm sorry, but, I made tea and...
Shut up about the tea already! You think we're having tea parties in there like a bunch of prissy nobles?
I'm sorry.
If you really feel so bad, don't go in there in the first place. Get the hell back to your room.
I meant no harm. It's just, I'm your wife. I thought it would be nice if I could do something.
Like I've told you, that's not your job. Don't show yourself in front of the other men. I have nothing else to say to you. Got it? Now scram. Sakes alive, first them, now you. It's driving me up the wall. What is it? I told you to get out of here.
Right, but,
Wait. What?
when will you spend time with me next? It has been some time since we last went out together, but we don't even have to go out. Just having dinner together would...
How many times are you gonna make me repeat myself, you worthless tramp? Are those ears only for show? Go back to your goddamn room!
My apologies. Looking utterly downtrodden, the white-haired girl made her departure. Such a piteous sight she was. As he watched her go, Jacopo merely snorted. Just thinking about the way he behaved then angers me. I have little fondness for men who do not treat their spouses with respect. So as you can see, the white-haired girl was in hardly a joyous situation. She was devoted to Jacopo and tried to do whatever she could for him, but he not only brushed her aside, he did so in an insulting, deliberately harmful manner. They were far from picturesque partners. Do you wonder then, Master, why she married him? The answer to that question will come to light in time. For now, let us follow her.
Oh, man, this door's music is some of the best.
Looking down dejectedly at the undrunken tea, the white-haired girl walked alone down the corridor. Though its calming scent filled the air, there was nobody around to have their heart warmed by it. Nor was there anyone to alleviate her loneliness. Despite being the master's wife, the maids who crossed her path in the halls nary said a word to her. As a matter of fact...
Oh dear, I beg your pardon, madam.
It's fine. One even bumped into her, stifling a laugh as she trotted off. In all likelihood, she had done it intentionally. The poor white-haired girl who had fallen to the floor stared helplessly at the broken cups. The tea she had made for her husband was forming a stain in the carpet. The maid's behavior toward the mistress of the house was absolutely unacceptable. Nonetheless, it was commonplace, all because of the way Jacopo treated her. The more the man of the house acted cruel to her, the less weight her position as his wife held to the servants. Day in and day out, the maids worked busily, offered little opportunity for leisure, so they would naturally have accumulated quite a bit of stress. And she became the target for them to let off this steam. Not directly, but through a more subdued kind of harassment from the shadows. She must have felt quite miserable. I imagine she would have been better off as one of the maids. On the surface, and in front of others, they showed respect for her as Jacopo's bride, but behind closed doors they acted very much the opposite. The disparity between the treatment she received around others, the treatment she was supposed to receive at all times, and the way she was actually treated, made the abuse that much worse. And furthermore, as you have seen through the other doors, Master, she was a very reserved young woman. She could neither raise her voice in reprimand nor raise her hand in retaliation. I have to get this cleaned up. She extended her spindly fingers toward the shards of shattered porcelain. But even the broken cup seemed to have no concern to spare for her. Its shattered edge cut her fingertip when she made to pick it up. A trickle of warm red blood ran across her unearthly white skin. As painful a sight as it was, it had a sort of taboo beauty to it.
Sorry, got a jam.
Ha ha. The blood spilling from her finger showed no signs of slowing down. She clenched her hand into a fist, let out a sigh, and went back to collecting the shards of porcelain. But when she did...
Madam! Madam!
Oh, wait. Need to settle on a voice for her.
Madam! Madam! What's the matter? Madam, you're bleeding.
While all the other maids ignored her, one came running over, shouting to the white-haired girl's side.
We need to get that cleaned up. We need to get that cleaned and bandaged up. Oh, you don't need to pick that up. That's not your job, madam.
I don't know if I can do that accent consistently. Let's see. I did not think about Maria's voice in advance.
What's the matter? Madam, you're bleeding. We need to get that cleaned and bandaged up. Oh, you don't need to pick that up. That's not your job, madam.
Maybe.
Oh, you don't need to pick that up. That's not your job, madam. We need to get that cleaned and bandaged up. Oh, you don't need to pick that up. What's the matter, madam?
Oh, huh. I might be flip-flopping on her for a little bit until I figure something out.
It's all right, Maria. There's not much to pick up.
It is not at all right. And the rest of you, why are you just standing there? Your boss's wife is on her hands and knees and you're not even lifting a finger to help her? You disgust me.
Maria, it's fine, really.
Oh, madam. If you weren't so timid, this wouldn't happen. You're allowed to yell at them, you know.
It's all right, really. It's my fault.
Anyway, we should get that finger taken care of. Let's get you back to your room, okay?
But the broken cups and the spill.
As I said, that's the maid's work. Now come on, let's go.
Okay.
And the rest of you, get this mess cleaned up.
She roared like the wind in a thunderstorm.
I think I can do that voice. Probably.
The other maids stood there dumbfounded, watching as she and the white-haired girl disappeared down the hall. But they were soon frowning and grumbling to one another.
She thinks she can act all high and mighty just because the master is fond of her.
The woman's name was Maria. She was one of the maids, and she was the one person in the mansion the white-haired girl could think of as an ally. Though her husband paid her no mind and the maids made her life miserable, just one person, Maria, treated her with respect and kindness. And I am sure you can readily imagine just how much of a lifesaver that was for her. I too found myself somewhat relieved that Maria was there for her. Being a servant of this house, I was also one of the maids working there at the time. However, I was unable to involve myself to any great degree in her fate. This meant that there was little I could do to assist her, even in times of pain and unpleasantness. The best I could do was pray that... The best I could do was pray that Maria would continue to lend the white-haired girl her hand.
And that does it.
Thank you, Maria. You're always such a big help.
Oh, no need to thank me. I just did what any good maid would do.
No one else is in the room, you know.
Oh, right, then I can drop the act? Man, I just can't get used to talking all stuffy. I'm out there doing my best, but the head maid's still spouting stuff like, "Your manner of speaking is improper for a servant." Every single time we meet. Yeesh, come on, just shove it, would you? You're a damn creep.
No, you mustn't speak of her like that.
Sorry, slip of the tongue. She just kinda gives me the willies, you know. Speaking of, you drop the stuffy talk too, madam. Kinda awkward if only one of us is acting casual, you know.
This is normal for me. If I attempt to talk like you, I would freeze up out of nervousness. This is my casual.
Fair enough. Guess that's what happens when you're raised well. I like it though. Has a very regal feel about it.
I don't think my upbringing is the only factor.
But you know, upbringing is important. Worth a whole lot more than money, I'd say.
I suppose. Thank you, Maria. You're always so compassionate.
You betcha. They don't call me the Virgin Mary for nothing. I practically bleed compassion.
You know, that might be true. You very well could be the reincarnation of the Mother of God.
No. You were supposed to laugh at that. It's just embarrassing if you take it seriously.
Alone in the white-haired girl's room, Maria was acting much more friendly and relaxed as they conversed, as opposed to her no-nonsense attitude in the hallway. The two women were, as you can see, quite close. They had crossed over the wall separating master from servant and built a bond of friendship. And at some point they had begun to speak... Sorry, I keep tripping over myself today. Having an off day, I suppose. And at some point they had begun to speak frankly with one another when no one else was around. Maria was the only person in the mansion around whom the white-haired girl felt comfortable being open. I imagine she very much enjoyed these moments of conversation. You wish to know who the head maid was? My. Are you sure you want to ask me that, master? Some questions are better left unasked, for your own good.
I have to say, madam, you have the prettiest fingers. Mine are all rough and dry and nasty.
You think so? Mine haven't the slightest bit of muscle. They're about as frail as dead branches.
Oh, who needs beefy mitts anyway?
I still think healthy-looking hands like yours are far more attractive.
What? What's to like about these things? Women all over the world dream of having hands like yours. Slender, feminine, and perfectly cared for. I don't know, just looking at them lights a fire in my loins. Makes me want to lick every last one of them. Actually say, can I lick them? Can I run my tongue up and down all 10 of those sweet little digits? Come on, can I? What do you say?
Stop that, Maria, seriously.
I'm kidding, I'm just kidding. Or am I?
Oh, Maria.
Ah, right. How did those tea leaves turn out, madam? The ones you imported. All the maids just adore it. They can't get enough of that aroma. I'd sure like to get a taste of it. If you, end up with extra and you think you could spare a sip for me, teehee.
That was, what was in the cups I dropped.
Wah, really? Well, ain't that a crying shame? And Jacopo wouldn't have any of it? God, why does that man have to have such a stick up his ass? He went through all the trouble of making it for him and...
He was busy. It's not his fault.
Busy? You mean playing billiards, drinking bourbon, and puffing a damn cigar?
It may look to us like they are just making small talk, but I'm certain their meeting has some importance to their business. It was imprudent of me to try to step into the men's world.
That's just not right. I mean, you're his wife. Why shouldn't you be allowed into the room?
It doesn't bother me.
You don't have to pretend.
Here's an idea. How would you like to have some of that tea now? We also have some orange marmalade, which you like so much. Add a scoop of that and a tray of cookies, and we have the perfect tea time.
You're singing the siren song, madam. But you really should be doing that with him.
He would not have tea. I suspect he does not like it. I don't want it to go to waste, so...
Madam, I know it's none of my business and I have no place at all say in this, but it's not impossible for a woman to file a divorce these days. You don't have to sit down and take it, not one bit. You're pretty, well-educated, and still young. There's hope, even if you do leave him. There are plenty of other men out there. You aren't obligated to stick with that arrogant jerk.
He's just very busy right now.
There you go again.
There was a time when he was kind. He wasn't like this when we first met. Back then he was a little awkward, but a kind man.
Him? A kind man?
Yes, believe it or not. There was indeed a time. Saint Maria, would you mind giving me a little bit more of your time? I'll make some tea and we can talk.
All right. If you're telling me about when Jacopo was decent, I'm all ears.
Indeed.